Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Tiny Blue Games. My name, of course, is Seesaw or Chris, and today we're doing a brief discussion about Black Desert Online. Now, most of you on this channel know that I've just started playing Black Desert Online it's been about a month now. And I've very casually been playing it. I've been enjoying a lot of the different aspects that this game brings and that a lot of other MMOs don't adhere to. And that's kind of what this video is discussing. So, mainly, the game involves a lot of grinding, and as an MMO player nowadays, we hear grinding and we think, wow, that sounds terrible. Because grinding is often used to define some of the most tedious and terrible parts of a lot of MMOs. You know, maybe you have to get a certain amount of reputation in World of Warcraft was very famous about getting grinding rep. Or maybe you need to find a specific item or something like that, and you just have to grind out a bunch of monsters to get the specific item. Well, grinding in Black Desert Online is definitely a very big part of the game because, for instance, grinding is your main source of leveling for a lot of the game, which is completely different than any MMO, really. Often you have quests that you use and dungeons that you use, but these don't really exist in Black Desert Online. You're just killing monsters over and over again. And this sounds like a really boring system, but it's actually really fun if done properly. And I'm going to use an example of one of my favorite childhood games that did this exact same thing. Now, many of you might have heard of or might have heard me talk about MapleStory before, and this game didn't really have a ton of quests that would level you. You had to actually grind out levels by fighting monsters as well. Now, it was really fun to do this in this game, and it's fun to do it in Black Desert Online. And the reason I think that it's very fun is that in both games, the combat is very unique compared to a lot of MMOs. And because of this, I think it allows the combat to feel fresh, and it makes you very excited to actually just go and fight the monsters. Now, one of the primary things that both games do is they allow you to acquire new skills as you level up, which isn't too, out of the norm, but these skills will probably power creep old skills, and because of that, it really makes you excited to get these huge new skills and just keep on grinding monsters in different places with these skills. So I think Black Desert does a really good job about grinding because it actually has such good combat. And that's not a surprise to a lot of people, I'm sure, that play the game. The combat is very fun. As you can see in the footage back here, I'm having just a blast killing monsters with my different element-based attacks. I've got lightning, I've got fire, I've got the big meteor AoE skill here that has a 2-minute cooldown, and because of that I sort of use it when I have a huge cluster of mobs, and I'll even go around gathering a cluster of mobs and then using this big AoE attack. So it makes the pattern at which you grind and kill monsters very interesting and something that you focus on. Now, grinding does become tedious when you make it feel tedious, and this is one of the big things that drives a lot of people away from Black Desert Online, I think. If you look at grinding as something that you hate, just don't play the game. Like, if there's no way you can think of a world where you've enjoyed grinding, you're probably not going to enjoy the idea of grinding, because you're just going to think to yourself, hey, I'm just going to grind until I have enough gold or silver, rather, to get this specific item to do PvP, and then I don't have to grind anymore. Well, there's always going to be another time that you're going to grind. Maybe they're going to introduce a new character, maybe they're going to introduce new items. You have to be willing to enjoy grinding to play any of these games that do focus on grinding. And because that's just a large part of the content that the game has. It doesn't have instance content. It doesn't have dungeons. It doesn't have raids. It doesn't have this. What it offers you is this big open world of grinding, and you have to be able and willing to enjoy the grinding. Now, one of the things I think that it could do a lot better in terms of its grinding is allowing more of a reward for grinding with people. As it is, it does decrease the amount of experience you get because you'll be killing more monsters. And this makes sense in terms of the fact that you don't want people to level too fast, but you don't want people to be in the point where it's faster to do stuff by themselves, and because of that, they're completely not open to partying. And I think that's kind of the case for Black Desert Online at the moment, where it is very much focused on solo grinding. And as a MapleStory player who really did enjoy, getting into a party and having people that have specific buffs that applied to other people in your party and made it a lot more feasible to grind faster, I wish that Black Desert Online would push for a bit more of that gameplay. And maybe that actually, now that I've said it out loud, maybe the way to push for that isn't necessarily, increasing the experience that these party groups get, but maybe looking at certain buffs and how characters can be more beneficial to a group setting. For instance, in MapleStory, and I sorry to keep bringing it up, but this game is probably the most related to Black Desert out of a lot of games, which is interesting to hear since graphically it's so different and, so old. But there's a character that increases the amount of experience that people in the party get, and they have to apply this buff to people. So that would be a very interesting buff mechanic. And then there's a newer class as well that increases the respawn rate and density of mobs, which sounds like a very interesting situation, but it's kind of like a ritualist mage, and they put down some sort of spell that makes it so that monsters in that area start spawning back fiercer or something like that. And maybe that would be an interesting way for them to go. Now, I'm not saying, let's just copy this exact same classes from MapleStory and, sort of bring their mechanics in there, but maybe something that plays along with the idea of grinding, right? Because you're going to be grinding. They're grinding. They've accepted that that's what the game's about. Why not make other features of the game very focused on that? And they already have, because they have these pets that go around and collect your items and stuff that drop from the ground. Do you know what other game also had those exact same pets? That MapleStory had the exact same situation. So I think they could actually learn a lot from MapleStory, but they could also learn a lot in terms of what would ruin the game. And that's just essentially getting rid of the tediousness of the grind. Because initially it sounds great. People just get what they want. They don't have to spend hours playing to get to whatever top level is. But once you do that, it becomes not special anymore, and that's what really started to ruin MapleStory. So I think there is a lot to learn from MapleStory as a game in terms of success and failure, and just as a community in the MMO world, we have to accept that grinding is not always a bad thing. Sometimes it's what makes a game unique, what makes a game fun. So I don't really know. This was just a rant that I decided to have while I was grinding. Hopefully it's, either inspired you to try Black Desert Online, or likely try MapleStory if you've never tried it. But yeah, just me sharing my thoughts. Thanks for watching the video, guys. I hope to see you in the next one. Have a great time gaming and grinding whatever you're grinding.